All right, today we're going under the hood of the financial world. We're not talking about what to invest in, but something way more fundamental. We're talking about the engines. We're going to look at how the complex models that manage billions of dollars are actually built, tested, and validated before they ever get near your money.
You know, the physicist Sir Arthur Stanley Eddington gave us this absolutely brilliant way of thinking about it. An investment model, it's not some static, perfect building. No, it's an engine. It's a complex machine. It's got all these moving parts, and it's designed to navigate the total chaos of the market. It has to be able to adapt, adjust, and perform under some serious pressure.
And that is the crucial question, isn't it? Because if that engine is poorly designed, or maybe it just hasn't been tested for the rough roads ahead, well, it's not just going to stall. It could completely crash and take a whole lot of investor capital and confidence right down with it.
So this brings us right to the core problem we're going to tackle first. These risky black boxes. These are the opaque, often untested models that investors are just asked to trust without ever really getting a clear look inside.
Think about this contrast for a second. It's kind of wild. Before a new drug can reach a patient, it has to go through years of clinical trials, intense FDA oversight. The whole focus is on safety and efficacy. But a new financial product? Well, the testing is mostly internal, there's no real equivalent regulator, and the main focus is usually just on how it did in the past. That is a staggering gap in scientific rigor.
And this gap, it creates something called model risk. It's basically the danger that the very engine you're relying on is just broken. And the consequences, they're not just about losing money. A flawed model can absolutely destroy client trust, which, is the bedrock of the entire investment industry.
So, okay, how do firms actually try to manage this risk? Well, the first, and by far the most common line of defense, is to just look backward.
This is called backtesting. The idea is pretty simple, actually. You take your investment model, you feed it a bunch of historical data, and you see how it would have done. Did it make money? Did it manage to avoid the big crashes? It's a really vital first step, just to see if a model has any potential at all.
But here's the problem, and it's a huge one. The past is just one version of history. Relying only on that is like trying to drive a car by only looking in the rearview mirror. Yeah, it tells you exactly where you've been, but it tells you absolutely nothing about what's coming around the next corner. And that rearview mirror, it can be dangerously distorted. You can fall into all sorts of traps, like overfitting, where your model is so perfectly tuned to the past that it's completely useless for the future. Or how about survivorship bias? That's where you only test on the companies that made it, conveniently forgetting about all the ones that went bankrupt. And then there's my favorite, look-ahead bias, which is basically cheating. It's using information in your test that you wouldn't have actually had at the time. Any one of these can make a totally worthless model look like an absolute work of genius.
Okay, so to build a truly robust engine, we need to test it on roads that don't even exist yet. And this is where we move from history into the world of simulation.
Right, so the goal here is to create synthetic but totally plausible alternate histories. What if the dot-com bubble played out differently? What if a global pandemic hit in 1995 instead of 2020? By generating thousands of these what-if scenarios, we can test a model's resilience in ways that a simple backtest could never, ever do. So how do you do this? Well, one of the coolest ways is with a machine learning technique called a generative adversarial network, or a GAN. Now stay with me, it sounds complicated, but think of it like a game between a counterfeiter and a detective. The counterfeiter, that's the generator, creates fake market data. The detective, the discriminator, tries to spot the fake. And round after round, the counterfeiter gets better and the detective gets smarter, until the fake data is literally indistinguishable from the real thing.
So let's see how this actually plays out. At the very beginning, in what's called Epoch 1, the generator's attempt, that's the orange line, is, well, it's a terrible forgery. It looks nothing like the real market data in blue, and the detective spots the fake instantly. Easy peasy.
But by Epoch 50, things have changed. The generator has learned from its mistakes. That orange line is now starting to capture the real volatility and the patterns of the real data. The counterfeiter is getting good, really good.
And by Epoch 100, boom! We have a masterpiece forgery. The synthetic data is now so realistic that it represents a brand new, totally plausible market history. And this gives us an entirely new road, one that has never existed before, to go and stress test our investment engine against.
Creating thousands of plausible histories is incredibly powerful. But what if we want to go a step further? What if we want to actively search for the single worst-case scenario? To find that perfect storm that is specifically designed to break our model.
Now this is the ultimate test of robustness. It's not about asking what if a crisis happens.
No. It's about asking what specific crisis would cause a complete and catastrophic failure.
This is called reversed stress testing. You actually define the failure first, let's say a 40% loss in 1 month, and then you use models to work backward and figure out the precise combination of market shocks that would have to happen to make that nightmare a reality. It's a proactive, almost pessimistic way to find your biggest weaknesses.
And believe me, this isn't just some academic exercise. The infamous London whale incident, where a single trader lost over $6 billion, happened because the relationships between different assets, the ones that were supposed to protect each other, completely broke down. This is exactly the kind of hidden risk that reverse stress testing is designed to find before it's way too late.
Okay, so after all of this testing, the back testing, the simulations, the stress tests, you might be left with a few competing models. So how in the world do you pick the final winner?
Well, to make an objective decision, you can use statistical scorecards. Metrics like AIC and SAC, you don't need to know the math, but just know they essentially penalize a model for being overly complex. The goal is to find the Goldilocks model. Not too simple, not too complex, but just right. So here you can see that while all three models have some potential, the LSTM network gets the lowest scores, which tells us it strikes that perfect balance between power and simplicity.
And for a final visual showdown, we can use something called an ROC curve. Just think of it as a graph of a model's skill. A line straight through the middle, that's just a random guess. The more your curve bows up and to the left, the better the model is at telling a real signal from all the noise. And in this case, you can see Model 2 is clearly covering way more area, making it the undisputed champion of predictive power.
You know, in the end, all of these validation techniques, they really just serve one purpose. In the world of chess, the grandmaster Tigran Petrosian was famous for a style called prophylaxis, which is basically preventing your opponent's threats before they can even materialize. The great Bobby Fischer said he could smell danger 20 moves ahead. That is exactly what rigorous model validation is. It is financial prophylaxis.
It's all about building an engine that doesn't just run well on a sunny day, but one that can anticipate and survive the storms. So the next time you come across a new investment product or strategy, maybe the most important question you can possibly ask is the one we started with: how is its engine tested?